All right. Well, good evening. My name is Cheryl Rigger, and I work at the Dover Public Library. I try to engage interesting speakers, such as the speaker tonight, to talk about topics that people around town want to know more information about. So if you have a topic that you would like to know more about, you can always contact me at the library, and I will try to find somebody who knows more about that than I do. And then we can set up a date and we can put that on the calendar at the library. So I want to welcome everybody. And speaking of the calendar at the library, you can always tell what our upcoming programs are by going to the website at the library or by going to our Facebook page, or you can go into the library and see posters and see little quarter sheets that are reminders of the programs that are coming up. And just so you know, next week on Tuesday, we're having a Facebook Live a presentation. Chris Hart is going to present a portrayal of a man who served at Fort Sumter during the battle when the first shot of the American Civil War took place. So that's going to be on Facebook Live. You don't need to register for that. And on Thursday of next week, Alan Ladd, who is an author from the Akron area, is going to talk about his most recent novel called Churchill's Secret Messenger. It's a World War II spy novel. Very well written, very exciting, and very informative. If you like, if you like World War II, that's a great way to learn about it and to personalize it. And then in June, the first couple programs in June, June 7th is going to be a very interesting program. The Lockhart family from Logan, Ohio is going to talk to us about their blacksmith shop. It's a family-owned blacksmith shop, and that will be interesting. And on the 12th of June, we're going to have our very first in-person paint night. And there will be, I don't have a lot of details on that yet, but there will be details forthcoming if you're interested in doing something like that. So now I would like to say that we are recording this program in case you didn't get to see it or you would like to recommend it to another person that's not here this evening. You can do that later because I'll upload the recording to the website at the library. So at this point, I would like to introduce Shana Angel. Shana Angel is the current president of the Tuscarawas County Farm Bureau. So she is an expert on the topic tonight, which is Tuscarawas County farming during the COVID pandemic. All right. So she's also very experienced because she's part of a family farm. So she has a lot to tell us. And I think it's probably things that I, for one, have not thought about. And so I'm anxious to hear what she has to share with us. So once again, thank you all for coming. And Shana, thank you for coming to talk to us about this topic. It's yours.
Well, thanks, Cheryl. 1 second. Let me get my screen share up here. Maybe there it is. And share screen. Share. All right. I think that looks okay.
Yes, it does.
Welcome, everybody. I am Shana Angel, and tonight's topic is Tuscarawas County farming in the world of COVID-19. So originally, Cheryl suggested to me that she called me and she was like, "Hey, I heard that you're a really cool person." This is a summary in my words. I heard you're a really cool person. Do you want to talk about something? How about goats? And I was like, I don't think I can fill an entire presentation on goats that would engage people. But I can fill a presentation with pictures of goats. So what you're getting is a presentation on the world of COVID-19 with lots of pictures of goats, which is probably what Amber is actually here for. I hope that no one here is really terrified of goats because there are a lot of pictures of them. If you are scared of goats, close your eyes. Now if my slide will go forward. There we go. So here's what we're going to talk about tonight. I will tell you a little bit about myself because I like to talk about myself, and you're trapped here. Actually, that's not really true. You can leave anytime and you're on Zoom, right? So, and then I will talk about our experience on our farm with the COVID-19 pandemic. And then I will talk about what I know about how the COVID-19 pandemic impacted other farms. And then we'll talk about some of the lasting impacts, things that I hope are lasting impacts and things that are, that we're already seeing. So again, my name's Shana Angel, and along with my husband, Jonathan, we own and operate Angel Family Farms in southern Tuscarawas County. Jonathan is a veterinarian for the state of Ohio in his real life job. So he does that 40 hours a week. And then I do a lot of other things as well, but I do work on the farm. I, at some point, paid a lot of money, a couple different times actually, to the Ohio State University. And eventually they gave in and decided to let me have a master's degree in agricultural and extension education. And I am very involved in the agricultural community in Tuscarawas County, several different ways. Specifically, I've been on the Tuscarawas County Farm Bureau Board for the last 6 years. Jonathan and I have 2 kids. Their names are Kenton, and he is 3.5, and Nola, she's 13 months old. They're both mostly feral, but they do come inside to sleep. So that's good. Let's see, anything else about, no, I think that's it. When we graduated and got married, we decided we wanted to start a farm. I think the deciding to start a farm was before we actually got married, but in some order, we decided we wanted to start a farm. And the first words out of my mouth when we were talking about what we wanted to do were, I don't care as long as it's not chickens. Which is funny because then I probably accidentally got chickens. And since then I have owned more than 2,000 chickens at least. So that happened. And yeah, actually I did. My first chickens were raised in my spare bedroom in Bolivar, not even on the farm. The farm itself has been in Jonathan's family. I think Kenton is the 7th generation on the farm. So Jonathan would be the 6th generation on the farm, but it's not been in operation as a farm for the last 40 to 50 years. We have been renting out some of the crop ground for corn in a corn bean wheat rotation. But our family ourselves have not been farming it for quite some time, which was really fun to come back to a barn full of 50-year-old hay that we hand cleaned out. So for the first 5 years on the farm, we focused on raising pastured poultry. We raised chickens, turkeys, and a few guineas. That was not the most successful venture ever, but we did raise guineas. They're delicious if you ever have the chance to get guinea meat. It is somewhere in between a chicken and a turkey. And I like dark meat on chickens, so it's that really moist dark meat, but it's the whole bird. It's very good if you get a chance. Expensive, but good. The last year, and I'll talk more about this later, but the last year has shifted our focus as we get ready to do some rebranding. Right now we're offering a number of products made using wild plants foraged from our farm, including lip balms, foaming hand soaps. I made some of those today, and salves. And for more information, I will have links to our farm social media account at the end of this presentation, and that's where you can stay up on all of the latest news. We also do have dairy goats and a few beef cattle. So there is that. This goat right here, he is a doll baby and he's for sale and probably one of the most snuggly little dudes ever. But so our experience with COVID-19. Right at the beginning of the pandemic, right before the pandemic, we had this backlog of chicken. Like I'm talking pallets full of chicken sitting in the freezer at our processor. We were trying to figure out what to do. We were afraid we were going to have to start paying rent on storage space for all this chicken. And then all of a sudden, meat disappeared out of the grocery stores. And in 2 weeks, we moved over $4,000 worth of chicken. I hand delivered a lot of it, and then everything else we sold to another farmer friend who does some direct sales. So everything cleaned out in 2 weeks, completely cleaned out all of our stock from the last year. Now, you'll remember it was March. Typically with pastured birds, we don't start raising more until April because it's cold outside. And chickens do okay in the cold, but when they're little, you can't move them out when it's freezing at night. So we were cleaned out, like done for the year. So, or done until we could get more birds at least. And then we had some shifts in our personal lives, some pretty dramatic shifts that were sort of unexpected. So that was when we decided to take a step back because we saw what it was like at the beginning of the pandemic when we were really, really busy. And then we had this shift. And we decided we wanted to take a minute, step back, and shift direct from strictly pastured poultry and diversify on our farm and turn our eye towards agritourism. We saw some opportunities coming up on our farm where we knew that would fit into our plan. So we started looking into that. Additionally, during the COVID pandemic, we got to spend a lot of time at home together. And the best way to deal with that was to go outside. So we spent a lot of time outside in the woods. And that led us to this idea that we really enjoyed finding the plants that are in our woods and using them. So that was how this foraged products niche started. So I call it forage, very creative. And we have salves and lip balms and foaming hand soaps right now. I'm hoping to dry some wild herbs, and package those and a few other things. I'm still looking into some of it, but that is one of the things that we've been working on as well. And something else we have been really trying to build on the farm is our community connection and our community outreach. So right now, what we're working on for this year as a way to start out is doing a fundraiser with the Tusk Arts Partnership on the farm, where we do a plein air painting event where plein air painters, which is really cool. If you don't know what it is, Google it. Basically, people come out and they paint what they see. It's really, really cool. So having them come out and then having community members pay to come and watch those plein air painters, and then have a food truck and some other different experiences, and eventually be able to buy some of those paintings that those plein air painters did on the farm. So really bringing people in for the full arts and farm experience. So we're working on that with the Tusk Arts Partnership right now. Early October is where we're looking for that. So that is our experience with COVID-19. Other farms experiences. Also, this is Nola. This is my daughter. She's obsessed with goats. This is Amber's favorite goat. Amber is in this meeting too. But yeah, so this particular goat was born this spring. I think March. He was born in March. And Nola is obsessed with goats. She will scream if you take her away from them. She was yelling at me earlier today because she could not get into the goat fence. And I was like, that's for your safety. You're not allowed to just go roaming in the pasture. So anyways, other farmers' experiences. We'll start with the good because I like good things. The good, sustained increase in demand for locally sourced items. So I talked a little bit about this, talking about our experience, how we saw this huge blow up of demand. It has settled back. It has settled back to a sustainable level now. And what happened is when grocery stores ran out of meat, people had to turn somewhere else. Farmers that sell direct were where they turned. So they got to know their farmers during this pandemic at a time when they couldn't really connect well with a lot of people. They got to connect with their farmers. And so they built this relationship and they got to understand where it came from, how it's produced. So that sustained demand for locally sourced food was one of the great things that has really come out of this pandemic. An increased awareness of food supply chain and potential issues within. Yeah. So when the grocery stores ran out of food and the grocery stores ran out of milk, people were like, what's going on? So people got to learn a lot about how food gets to the grocery store, how it comes from the farm. Clearly, the cows aren't producing less milk. There aren't any less cattle being butchered. It's just somewhere between the farm and the grocery store, there's a holdup. So people got to learn about that. They got to learn about, where all of the milk goes, how not all of it is put into gallon jugs and things like that. So that was really good. And then farmer outreach. This gave farmers a chance to reach out to their community and to lend a hand with something they know about. So the best example I can give, this is an awesome example. The Tuscarawas County Farm Bureau and the Tuscarawas County dairy producers went together last spring when the schools were all shut down, kids were not getting their school meals, and they handed out over 7,000 gallons of milk to school-age kids and their families. So just they donated the money, went and got the gallons of milk from Walmart and just gave them out to whoever needed one, as long as they had a school-age kid. So, and that actually won a national award with the American Farm Bureau. So it was a county excellence award for this event, and there's only there are very few of those awards handed out. And out of the United States, Tuscarawas County was chosen because of this program. So that's fantastic. And then commodity crop prices are actually really high right now. I don't know if it's entirely pandemic related. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's actually not at all, but commodity prices are high right now. So that's good. That is a shining light in the COVID-19 scene. I looked the other day and I saw like 560 corn and I was like, man, like that is beautiful. I will take that any day. So that's good stuff. The other thing that was really good in the pandemic was people started paying attention to rural internet. Rural internet has been, if you are rural, it has been a topic of conversation for many years because you can't get internet. You'll notice right now, I'm not in a house. I'm at my church because after about 6 p.m., my internet is so slow that if I tried to talk to you on Zoom, there would be about a 30-second delay before you would hear what I said. It is atrocious, and it would probably freeze and it would break up and you wouldn't even hear me right. So I came down to the church where they have recently gotten SmartWay internet, which is real, genuine high-speed internet, not fake high-speed internet like I have. So I can use their internet and you can hear me pretty well, I hope. So those are some good things that came out of COVID. there were also some not great things that came out of COVID. By the way, this is a picture of our goats eating dinner at night. There's a lot of goats there. A lot of those goats we've actually sold because we sell most of our babies. For sure, all of our babies that are boys, but those are some of our goats. So, the bad in the pandemic. Increased isolation. So, leading up to the pandemic, back when we were all sweet and innocent and naive and thought the world would never change, we were already in the middle of a mental health crisis for farming. Farmer suicide rates were at record highs. It was to the point where it was almost all anyone talked about was farmer mental health. People were speaking up with their own mental health struggles, and it was something that was being talked about. And part of it was because commodity prices have been so low for so long. But then the pandemic hit, and your family members don't want to come see you, and your neighbors aren't going to stop over and say hi if they see you out, and you're not really supposed to stay and chat at the feed store when you go into town. The isolation just magnified the problem. And a lot of farmers, I've heard it said so many times, well, COVID didn't change anything on our farm. We're still just out here working by ourselves. Yes, sort of. There's a lot more that they're not wanting to talk about. So that is one thing that has been hard in the pandemic, is seeing that increased isolation. So if you have farmer friends, or, like there's this old guy that farms down the road, just stop in and say hi if you can. They probably need it at this point. Another big thing that was a talking point during COVID-19 life is processing for everything. So there are different types of facilities that process meat. You have federally inspected facilities that are privately owned, large operations. I'm talking like case farms type scale. And those are handled by federal plants. And farmers can't just go to a case farms plant and be like, I'd like my 55 chickens butchered, please. You have to find somebody else. And if you want to sell it, it has to be state inspected. So there are a lot of state inspected facilities in the state of Ohio. But when COVID hit, anybody who had a beef animal or even a dairy animal that wasn't doing anything for that matter, they all went to the processor. And very, very quickly, I want to say it was like by June of 2020, I was hearing things like the butcher is booked out to 2023. And I'm still hearing these things, that people can't get into their butcher until 2022, 2023. That's a long time, especially if you have an animal standing in the field that is gaining weight, that is losing value, and is eating very, very expensive feed. So when I said commodity prices are up, that's good if you're a commodity grower. But if you are on the other end and you need corn for feed for your cattle, that's a problem. That's bad news for you. So, and if you have a steer that's 2,000 pounds out in your field and you have to keep feeding him, that's a lot of money. And once a steer hits 30 months of age, they start to lose value because you can no longer get those bone-in cuts. So those far out processing dates are a big problem. And that's everywhere in Ohio, not just Tuscarawas County. We are fortunate in T County that we do have a number of really excellent processors. Off the top of my head, I can think of 4, but they're all really busy and they're really booked. And part of that is due to the difficulty in finding employees right now, because this is a challenging time. There are more jobs than there are employees willing to work or wanting to work them. And honestly, working in butcher shops is a hard job to fill anyway, because people hear that and they think, ooh, I don't want that. I'll tell you from firsthand experience, it's really fun. But a lot of people don't want to do that kind of job. So then the other part of processing that was a challenge during the COVID-19 pandemic, at least at the beginning, this one has cleared up some, was milk. So this is something that a lot of people never thought of prior to the pandemic. The majority of milk is not put in gallons. Well, a lot of milk is not put into gallon jugs and sent to grocery stores for people to buy. Most of the milk goes in its bulk form to restaurants, to event centers, to caterers, to all different kinds of places that serve a lot of food to a lot of people. Milk is packaged in bags, it's dried, you have dried milk. It's not put in those gallons. So while we were looking for milk in the grocery store and they were limiting you to 2 gallons of milk, there were dairy farmers that were having to dump milk. They were having to empty tanks and just lose an entire paycheck, because their end user couldn't do anything with it. They didn't have anywhere for it to go. Their tanks were already full. So that posed a huge challenge. We are very, very fortunate in Tuscarawas County that we have access to an excellent cheese making market. This saves our Tuscarawas County dairy farmers because they were able to ship their milk to the cheese houses and the cheese houses could process it into cheese. So that worked out very, very, very well. Additionally, not only has processing been a problem, but there have been so many supply chain problems. And you guys probably have experienced this in all kinds of parts of your lives. But fertilizer, seed, pesticides, medication for sick animals. You need people working in factories and labs to make those things. When we shut down, people weren't in those jobs. So they got behind. And then when people started coming back, not everybody came back. So everything got slowed down. Tractor parts, hard to get. I talked to one of my farming friends and they said that they've been waiting, and this was yesterday, they've been waiting since January for a preventative medication that they give to all of their calves when they get them, because it has saved them probably close to a 15% death loss. So to not have that is scary. And that has been a big problem during the pandemic. So supply chain challenges are everywhere. In farming, it can get a little dicey when you get into those life and death situations of, I can't give this medication that this animal needs. So that's hard. And then again, rural internet on the bad side it's still a problem. You had kids who went remote and didn't have reliable internet. Can you imagine trying to be going to school and your Zoom meeting freezing every 2 minutes? That would be so hard. So that was really, really tough. And then a lot of farmers work off farm jobs and were sent home to work from home. And if you have rural internet, it's really hard to do your job. And in my experience, the best internet I can get is $120 a month. And if I want to use the internet after 6 p.m., it's probably not going to happen. Usually around 8 o'clock, I can't load Facebook anymore. I can't load Amazon, which actually saves me some money because I don't impulse buy things because I can't load the app. But I'm used to it. If I need to do something, I can come here 1.5 miles down the road to my church, or I can go up into town. I work one of my jobs from the office of one of my other jobs a lot of times because I have internet there. So it is a challenge. It's still a challenge. And I'm hoping that now that more people know about the issues with rural internet, that we're going to start to see some changes. Lasting impact. So also on this screen, I want to give a shout out to a couple of other farms because I have some pictures here, or farms and small businesses. So the first picture is that is a pork chop. I know it looks like a steak, but that is one amazing pork chop. That is from Six Buckets Farm on 416. If you've never been there, you need to go. The next picture over has some tea from Old Time Farms, also clutch. So delicious, hot, iced, whatever, just really good. The other two pictures are of my products, but the picture in the middle with the salves and the lip balms was taken by Betty Quillen, who runs a small business of her own. So she is awesome. She took some marketing pictures for me because she's an amazing person. And then the other person I wanted to give a shout out, the other farm, my arm is burned badly because I was cooking some short ribs to braise short ribs right before I came here, and the oil splashed up when I threw the onions in the oil of all things. And yeah, but those short ribs were from Latzenheiser Farms, who are in New Philly. So beef short ribs, they have excellent beef. So those are my farm shout outs. I have a list of them at the end. So whether big or small, farms have had to adapt. They've had to adapt to supply and demand changes over the last year and however long it's been. Trial by fire has forced many producers to figure out how to do more with even less resources, and it has given farmers an opportunity to connect on a deeper level with their community. So in local food, there is always an ebb and flow. There's always people coming and going. You're always going to see people come in, people stop buying. That's just how it is. But during this health crisis, we have seen this massive influx of human beings into our lives as local food producers. And that is so wonderful to see because it gives those people a chance to bond with their farmer and learn about their farmer and take ownership of this farming, this local food movement. And the reason this is important, especially if you love Tuscarawas County like I do, is because when you're able to buy direct from a farmer, from a producer, you are keeping those dollars right here. And this is a little harder with dairy because dairy has more laws surrounding it. You can't necessarily buy directly from a dairy farmer. And most of your milk in the grocery store comes from very nearby you anyway. But when you buy your beef directly from a farm, when you buy your pork, your chicken, your vegetables, when you go visit 3P's stand over at Fresh the Market, you're keeping those dollars right here. That farmer is the one that the money's going to. That the processors, your Sugar Valleys, your Beitzel's, your Tilton's, your Baltic meats, they're getting the money and it's going to their employees, which is injecting it back into the community. Your farmer is getting that money. The local feed mills are getting that money and it's coming back into the community. So when you are buying those local meats, it keeps all of your dollars right here. And that is really, really exciting. And you can buy local cheeses. We have fantastic cheese houses around here. So if you're buying a cheese that's, you know, got like a Guggisberg label on it, look at that, you're buying local. Like this is beautiful. This is a thriving community. So, so if you have the opportunity to buy local products, that is my pitch for local foods. They're important to Tuscarawas County. And people have to be connected with their food. Whether you are buying from Walmart or whether you're buying from the farm down the road, you know your food's safe. Food in the United States is some of the safest in the world. And when you take interest in how that food gets to your plate, it makes you an active player in that system. You aren't just a passive consumer anymore. And you become part of the story of that food. And I know this sounds totally dramatic, but you do. You become part of the story of that food. And when you become part of that story, you are showing respect to that farmer who worked so hard, who went out every day in the winter and fed those cattle, who went out and milked those cows every morning, every day, twice a day, 3 times a day for their whole lives. You're showing respect for that person. You're showing respect for the people that cut it up, for the people that pasteurized and homogenized that milk, for the people that lovingly made that cheese. You're showing respect for those people when you become an active player in your food system, and you are showing respect for the plant or animal that produced that food. So when you learn more and become more involved in the way that your food is produced, you are part of the system and you take ownership in that and you take pride in that. And then you get to enjoy your food just a little bit more because you know so much more about it. So now that I'm off my soapbox, and now that you know more about me and my experience with the pandemic on the farm, and you also know what I know about other farmers' experience during the pandemic and the lasting impacts that the pandemic has had on farms in Tuscarawas County, you are ready to take on the world and go eat confidently. Do you guys have any questions?
All right. Thank you. That was very good, very informative, and very, you know, it's inspiring, I think, because you put it very well. When we support our local farmers by buying local, we support our entire community here. So that's so important. Okay, so now I'm going to be quiet and I'm hoping other people will unmute yourselves or put your questions or comments in the chat box, please.
Also, here's the list of the farms that I mentioned in this presentation. The only one that I don't think I actually talked about was Frog on a Lily Photography, which is, she's the one who took that maternity picture of my goat, because I am that extra that I got maternity pictures of my favorite goat. So there you go, guys.
That's wonderful.
Talk to me, tell me your feelings. I don't know. Oh, I guess I can stop sharing. Well,
leave it up there just for a minute so people can look at those. Remember, we are recording it and I will put it up. So if you need to come back to this slide, you can always like fast forward on the recording to look at this. So you can, you know, memorize them. Yeah. Buckets of milk, old time, you know, herbs, right? Now
Yeah.
the photographers, maybe not. And Lotzenheiser, that's a familiar name in the area.
Yeah.
Questions, comments? So I have a comment first. As you talked, you pointed out something that people during the pandemic, different people have been pointing out that, these circumstances have existed. For example, the mental health of the farming community and the rural internet problem. Those problems have not, they've been here for a while. And people just keep pushing them to the side, thinking they're not important. So the pandemic really has just brought it more to light and made people so much more aware of it. People who are not in these rural areas, people who have internet access, they don't understand that when the kids went to remote learning, well, there was nothing to connect to, and I found that even in some of our bigger towns here in the valley, teachers just assume that everybody has internet at home, and you don't have good internet. I know the library has hotspots that you can take out to your house, and have some connection, but that and they're always out, they're always on a list of reserve. So it just shows that these same problems, were existed before. They're just they have been brought more to light now. So I think that was really important.
Yeah,
And
even those hotspots, they're excellent, but if you can't get cell service at your house, if you can't,
right.
because in my house you can't make a phone call. Don't even try.
And I think it's with Sprint. I think if you don't have a Sprint tower, you don't have anything. You can't even use a hotspot.
You don't have that at my house.
Kimberly wants to know, which government level do we write to in order to leverage help to get some movement to work on these rural internet issues?
That is a great question. This is both state and federal. And so I have personally chewed the ears of all of our county commissioners on this topic. And I have personally chewed the ears of internet companies on this topic. And there has been funding recently approved. Part of the problem with rural internet lies in the way that the political boundaries are drawn. So if one house within a political boundary has high-speed internet, it makes it impossible then to get funding to get that high-speed internet to the rest of the houses. Because once there's one house that has it, they can say that they brought it to that area, right? And that's what internet companies are doing, is just going far enough to get credit for their growth. So like they bid on these contracts and they get all this money to do this, but then they only do exactly as much as they can. And then they do the rest to improving internet for city dwellers.
Yes, and then they think that the person in that rural area said, well, it's there, you just have to buy, you have to subscribe to it, right? That's what they want, they're providing the service, but it's at a cost. And like you say, it's not even very good service. So.
Yeah, I have satellite internet at my house, and that is the best they can do right now. That is the very best internet I can get. I asked if I could get any better, and they're like, well, you can get more data for another $30 a month.
That doesn't help.
I don't want more data.
Right. Right. Even that person on the phone from the company, they don't understand what the problem is in rural America, because they're suggesting that data would solve your problem. It wouldn't. But back to Kimberly's question, though. So I guess you can approach your city officials. You could approach our senators and representatives in the state of Ohio, and at the federal level, people in Washington, D.C. I would say they if they are not aware of it, they should be aware of it. So, but it always helps to contact them directly. Mhm. Other questions or comments? Now, I'm unfamiliar with the Fresh the Market.
Oh, yeah.
Talk a little bit about that because that's new, right?
That is, and it's right behind Alley Cat's marketplace.
Okay.
And it has products from a number of artisans and farmers and stuff like that. So that is really cool. That's another really cool one. We don't have anything there. I had too many friends with similar products that were headed there. So I just stepped back and let them take that one. So yes.
Mhm. Okay.
Maggie has a question. Hi,
yes.
Maggie. Maggie has seen a cow break my foot before, just for the record.
Oh my.
So she asked, have you ever utilized the services available from USDA or other government agencies for loans or grants to help grow your farm? This is such a perfect question. You played right into my trap. No, this is another thing that has been such a big problem during COVID. What happened was we applied for some EQIP funding, which is Environmental Quality Incentives Program, which is a cost share program through NRCS. NRCS pays a certain dollar amount. It's supposed to be for beginning farmers, right around 90%. You pay the other 10%, and you implement these practices that help reduce erosion, runoff, nutrient loss, etc. So we applied for that in 2019, again, back when we were all young and naive. And then in early 2020, in mid 2020, we got a call and they were like, hey, you want to do it? We're going to make it happen. We have all these great programs. We're going to do fencing. We're going to do this and that and that. And you're only going to have to pay like $5,000. And we're like, great, this is perfect. We can make that happen. But remember COVID and remember supply chain problems. Everything went up in cost. And the fencing alone was probably going to cost us more than what we had originally intended on spending on all of our practices. So fencing, roadways, water, a heavy use pad for cattle, all of this. And the fence alone was going to cost that much. And, oh man, we're still trying to figure that one out because the purpose of the program is to help farmers that don't have the cash to do it. But now I can't just come up with another 10 to 15,000 extra dollars because inputs went up that much. You don't expect a pandemic. No one expects a pandemic. You can't plan for that. So yeah, that was another fun pandemic event effect that happened. Was EQIP funding is not a good deal right now. But there is things like exclusionary fencing, which is through the Muskingum Watershed District. So the Muskingum Watershed District Conservation District, MWCD. And then you work with your local soil and water to do that, which will help you exclude livestock from waterways. And they cover the full, they can cover the full cost of that. You just have to pay up front and then. But anyway, if you have questions on that, send me a text or an email and we can talk about it.
So I have a question then about the products that you sell. If people want those, do they just call you or email you and set up a time to come out to the farm, or how does that work?
So yes, you can do that. But also on Fridays from 4 to 6, I have a display at 6 Buckets Farm on 416. and you can come in and you can get almost everything that I talked about in this presentation. There's pork, there's tea from Old Time, there's my stuff. So that's pretty cool. And she also does cut flowers there. So if you want to buy yourself a bouquet because you totally deserve it, and you do, she sells cut flowers there as well. So that is Fridays from 4 to 6 out on 416. Otherwise, just send me a message and we can arrange pickup in town or something like that. You don't have to come all the way out to the farm unless you want goat snuggles, in which case you do have to come all the way out to the farm because I'm not hauling into town.
Well, it seems to me like that could be a pretty nice, little getaway on a Friday evening. Go down to the farm and enjoy the countryside and the time away from your house a little bit, and do something different, support the local farmers. And, I think that would be a nice little trip, let's say.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think that sounds nice. Anybody else want to comment? Everybody's quiet. Well, I do hope everybody learned something. I know I certainly did. And I want to thank Shana Angel for coming tonight and telling us about these things that, someone does have not a question, but let me see here.
It's the hours for fresh.
Oh, the hours for fresh.
The address.
150 First Drive, New Philly, open Wednesday through Friday at 9 o'clock and Saturdays at 10 o'clock. Open from April to December, and there's a phone number listed there.
It's awesome. You guys should definitely check it out if you haven't been.
So again, Saturday at 10, people should just go over to the Fresh the Market, and check it out. I myself have not been there yet, so I'm thinking I need to get out and about. So yes. All right. Thank you, Sheila, for that information. Okay, well, again, Shana, thank you so much for coming and talking to us this evening. Just letting us know what's going on in our Tuscarawas Valley and how we can be a part of the stability and a support to the farmers who work so very hard. Not everybody wants to do that work. It's a 24/7, no days off, really. So I know I certainly appreciate it, what you do at your farm and for highlighting these other farms and other people as well. And I want to thank everybody who came this evening. I would say you've been a wonderful audience, but you did not talk hardly. But thanks to the people who did put in some comments and some questions, because they were very valuable. We all learned from that. All right. Yes, so yes, thank you so much, everybody. And there's still a little bit of sunshine. You can still go out and enjoy the evening.
And again, if any of you guys need anything, if you have follow-up questions, if you think of something later, this is my cell phone. I have it with me all the time. I can't guarantee I answer text messages within 24 hours always, because I'm kind of slow at answering them, but it's there. Text me. Email, I'm even slower. So don't do that unless you want a really slow response. But yeah, so you can get a hold of me. I'm here. If you want to call me, go ahead and call me. I'm not going to yell at you and be like, don't call me. So if you have questions, just get a hold of me. Perfect. And if you forget how to get a hold of her, you can always Google it, or you can contact me at the library and I have the information. So, all right. All right. Thank you again so much, Shana. Thanks for coming. Thank you for having me. All right. Bye, everybody.